Okay, I'm glad to be here again, sharing with you knowledge and a wealth of knowledge that I have garnered across the years. That is the IELTS, which is an extremely popular test, and yet, there's so many myths around it. But with our, what shall I say? We have had so much engagement with it. And right now, I'm more than happy to share what we know and what we have achieved during this decade or so of preparing students, hundreds of them for this same test. So the IELTS in full is the International English Language Testing System. It is offered by the British Council as proof of your English levels. Like we said last time, you do not fail the IELTS. Most universities, as we'll find out, would require the IELTS. And if you're going for a scholarship, you certainly will require not only a band, but decent band in the IELTS. I am the team leader at a training center called Anglo Smart Options at Posta Uganda, Kampala Road. That's where we are, 5th floor, room 512. We like to say that we are on top of the world of Kampala post office, at the last floor in the last room. My name is Nakibuka Lois. Why I'm speaking to you about this is because we teach the IELTS. I teach the IELTS, and our training center is in partnership with the British Council. We are under the partnership program. We are not partners, but we are under the partnership program. They're very specific about that. What that means is we can book for you your tests and follow up your booking. That way you can have a smooth experience whilst preparing for the IELTS, booking, attempting it, and retrieving your results. So we are more than happy to do that at Anglo Smart Options. Right. There are 2 test types, major test types. There's also a third one we'll be looking at. Like we did explore last time, and we're making a recap today. There is the IELTS Academic, which you will need if you intend to study, or if you're wanting to secure a scholarship, and also for professional registrations, for example, doctors, nurses, any medical profession. There is work for those needing to work or to immigrate to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and some other countries. You will be required to produce certain band scores for the IELTS. There is also the IELTS Life Skills for those wanting to join their spouses, migrate to the UK, also for other purposes, for instance, some religious institutions like priests and nuns. Just today we received a request to train some nuns for the IELTS Life Skills for purposes of living or studying in the UK, certain courses for a certain period of time. This life skills is shorter than your standard IELTS and only consists of listening and speaking. The scoring is either pass or fail. So that's straightforward. Move on to the IELTS formats. You can do it on computer or paper The only difference is the method of attempting the IELTS. There are no distinguishing features between the computer-based or the paper-based, to be honest. I have attempted both, and they are equally, the complexity is the same. The only difference is you'll be typing on the computer. Of course, you have scrap paper to plan your answer, to make notes, but the time will remain the same, except in listening, where you don't have any extra minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Reason being, on the computer, you will be filling in the responses as you type in as you're listening. In Uganda, this test is offered at Mat Abacus, 2nd Street Industrial Area. Of course, once you book with the British Council, they will tell you exactly the time and day to turn up for this test, for this speaking test. This is the usual venue for this test right now. Obviously, when situations change for British Council, say for instance, the venue they have hired, like Mat Abacus, has changed in their, I don't know, their availability, they might change and ask you to go to another venue. But right now, this is where it is. The paper-based one, and yes, I must say, Mat Abacus is also a popular venue for the speaking test, whether you're doing it face-to-face or on video, via video format, where you will be on a sort of Zoom video interaction with an examiner from abroad. The format for the speaking will still remain the same, but you will just be, speaking to a person over the screen. The paper-based, the results, as you can see, will be in those almost a fortnight or even a fortnight. They're usually done at Kabira Country Club or Acorns International School. Again, the British Council will let you know, will send you an email on the exact time and dates to expect. Right now, in Uganda, we don't have IELTS at home. Yeah, that one was available during COVID in some countries, but not in Uganda. So moving on to the actual IELTS writing, we have the academic. In this academic, as well as the general, there will be 2 tasks. The task 1 is 20 minutes, while task 2 is 40 minutes, to total up to an hour. Obviously, because task 2 is longer, you get more marks out of it. And most students prefer to start with task 2 for that very reason. What should you look out for? Well, from our experience with students, the ones who start with task 2 have a better chance of managing their time and how they structure the tasks and attempt them, really. How are these ones? Okay. First, before we move on to the structure, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, the marking criteria is what we look at, because you need to know. For task 1, for both the academic and the general training, that the marking criteria would be the same, although the tasks differ. For task achievement, which is out of a band 9, coherence and cohesion is a band 9, lexical resource, which is your vocabulary, then grammatical range and accuracy. What does a task achievement mean? Are you able to answer as asked or required? Do you understand the task? One. Number two, are you answering throughout your response as needed? Three, do you give equal attention to all the components that are required in that task? If the answer to all these questions is yes, then you have yourself a band 9 in task achievement. That then takes us to coherence and cohesion. Coherence meaning, does your writing make sense? How does it flow? Are the ideas flowing into each other, with smoothly without awkward parts which don't relate to the other or to the rest of the essay or writing or letter? And the cohesion, how does your writing stick together? So that too is marked out of a band 9. Coherence and cohesion can be achieved by how you use your linking words, your connectives, which phrases do you want to put first? How do your sentences flow? And aspects like this. Are you using your basic connecting phrases such as, first of all, to begin with, firstly, secondly? These are correct, but also these are average. If one needs to, what you want to be achieving here for task 1, of course, task 1 general writing test is a letter. It must be in the appropriate format for the letter. If it's a formal letter, you want to be writing formally, like you would be writing to a dean of students or to member of parliament, or perhaps your mayor of the city. And for academic writing, you want to consider, what are you reporting about a flowchart diagram? In that case, then the nature of your connectives will be different. For instance, in that case, you're using words that show the flow of something. The first step in making cheese is this. This is followed by, then, afterwards, before. So that kind of language would be suitable. If you're writing about a bar chart or a bar graph or a chart, then your language will be, it can be seen, it is very clear, it is noted. And then the language of comparison, of course, will be very important in such a task. So it will depend on the task you're attempting at that time. The third fancy word criteria is the lexical resource, which in essence means your language, your vocabulary. How wide is it? And not only is it wide, but varied. Are you able to use synonyms or similar words to mean the same thing? How formal is it? If, for instance, you are talking about the language of comparison, are you able to use a range of these words? Yes. And how suitable are they? The final one, grammatical range and accuracy. Yes, you could be accurate, but what's the range? Here we are speaking your punctuation, sentence structures. Are they predominantly simple sentences, or are you able to mix the complex with the compound, as well as use participle phrases, the passive, active voice, and can you use the tenses as well, especially the past perfect tense or the present perfect, or how are you able to use all these grammatical aspects properly? So together, they are all scored out of a bar 9. Each one is scored out of a bar 9. Task 2 only differs in task response, which also mirrors the same features of the essay. So both academic writing and general writing tests have an essay at the end. Now, the essay types differ. It could be an opinion essay, advantages and disadvantages, problem and solution, or do you agree or disagree type of essay. You do well to know how each one of these evolves, the type of language used, the linkers that are suitable for the different type of essays that are available for you as you prepare. So once you have your bar 9 for all the components, you are then, these ones are added up. Say, for instance, for task achievement, if you receive an 8, and for coherence and cohesion, you have a 7.5. For whatever reason, you have a 5 for your vocabulary, and your grammatical range and accuracy is 6.5. You have a total of 27, which is divided by 4 to give you a 6.775, which is rounded off to the nearest whole number, giving you a band 7. Hooray! You have your scholarship or admission to a university of choice. And if you're a nurse or a doctor, you are good to go for your job or medical registration admission. So, you can register with your choice of board. 7 and above is considered reasonably good band to have. So the same criteria is used when doing the overall score for all the components. So in this case, if you have 8 in speaking, 7.5 in reading, 5 in writing, 6.5 in listening, it will still be totaled up to 27, divided by the 4 number of components, and you have yourself a band 7 still. But beware, most universities, colleges, as well as academic institutions require a minimum band. Some will go for a 6, others 6.5, whereas others, for doctors, you require a 7.5. In overall, as a minimum, and a 7. So some, will say we would like a writing and a reading to be a 7.5 and above. Then the other components can be 7, and your overall band must be a 7.5. So in as much as you're asking, your university, you want to ask them about those individual components. So that way you don't have any surprises. Yes. Okay. So before we move on, you just might want to know about the costs. IELTS, UKVI. UKVI means United Kingdom Visa Immigration. Is the specific IELTS that is meant for those intending to go to the UK for whatever reason, either to study or to work. You will need to pay a different amount of money from the standard IELTS. So if you are looking for a scholarship or a university and you haven't yet made up your mind where it will be, our recommendation is that you attempt the UKVI, reason being, it will take you into the UK and also elsewhere in the world. Should you attempt the standard IELTS, you can go elsewhere in the world, but not in the UK. You would still need to reattempt the IELTS, this time doing the UKVI. And that's something that is crucial for you to know. Right. We will move on to the reading. This is a summary of the kind of tasks you will find on the IELTS reading. There'll be matching headings to paragraphs. You will be asked to fill in gaps. There will be short answer questions to respond to. You must be able to find specific facts because there'll be questions asking that, as well as specific information where you just respond yes, no. And the viewpoint. Are you able to identify the writer's viewpoint or the author's viewpoint or perspective and respond by saying true, false, or not given? These are very popular. To be honest, what our students over the years consistently find challenging are the matching headings to paragraphs, true, false, not given, yes, no, not given questions. These ones are, they kind of trick them. And I'm not saying they'll trick you, but you just want to be aware. For you, it might be a different narrative. Yeah. What do you need? First, be aware for the, generally the academic reading tasks, passages are quite lengthy, over 1,200 words long. Lately, the general task passages have also become longer. So you would do well to practice with passages that are more than 1,000 words long, whether you're doing the general training or the academic training. Yes. Reason being, if you're used to short passages, whilst in the actual tests, you may find time difficult to manage. It's important, like we all know, to be familiar with the question types, how much time is allotted to each. The reading is allotted 60 minutes, whether you're doing academic or general training. If you have 60 minutes, you may want to allocate 20 minutes for each passage. Be aware that the passages become increasingly difficult as you progress. 1, 2, all the responses just earn you 1 mark. So you might want to think about the benefit of spending 5 minutes on one number only for you to score 1 mark. Okay. Right. Skimming and scanning are excellent and musts skills if you are to successfully manage your time. Just so you know, reading and listening are these are the tests that people have scored 40 out of 40, like total bar 9s. So they're possible. Reason being, the answers are right here, are right there in the passage. So your ability to recognize synonyms, which are similar words to what words are used in the passage, is very key. Rarely would you get the same word used in the question as well as in the passage. Yeah, that one is so common. And the paraphrase, your ability to rephrase these words in your own words comes into play very importantly. Are you able to find out where the keywords are as you read? Each question will have a keyword or keywords. Can you find these out as you actively reading, as you use your pen and notes, as you annotate your reading passage? Okay. You totally need to follow instructions. I know that for some people, we want to get straight down into the actual task. We discover at our training center and LoSMAD options that a lot of marks are missed simply because instructions were not followed strictly. Yes. And one of the other things you want to think about is transferring your writing, your answers. For the reading tests, there will not be any extra time given to you to transfer your answers from your paper, if you're doing the paper-based test, into the answer sheet. So you want to do it. You may want to do it as you answer. We totally recommend using a pencil. That way you can delete and, adjust your answers accordingly. So that is key above everything. Number 2, the writer's opinion. This one is one of the most, challenging skill. Reason being, the answer is not straightforward. You have to work it out. And opinions are not like facts. So that is something you want to dwell on as you practice. You want to keep that in mind. Speed reading, at the same time understanding what you're reading, is another key aspect. Can you predict what will come next? If you're familiar with the texts and you have read them over and over, there are certain patterns to them. You will know that, for instance, while scanning, you'll find that proper names, like the name of somebody, Dr. Abel Wamala, for instance, you would know that a proper name of someone is being mentioned because of something that a question will rotate around, whether he's forwarded his theory or discovery or did some research and has presented his findings. So you're predicting. Also, you will know, you want to know that questions, especially the first questions, follow the passage order. What that means is the answers to question number 1 will come from paragraph 1. Number 2 answers will be in paragraph, after the number one questions, answers have been discovered in paragraph 1, and so on as the paragraph progresses. The only ones that may digress from that format are the writer's opinions, where you have to read the entire paragraph to answer, yes, I can see this answer, no, it isn't there, or not given. Please note, these yes, no, not questions differ from true, false, not given questions. Note that carefully and practice that accordingly. The linking words are great in creating a kind of signposts, showing you that, oh, now the answer is somewhere here, reason being, however has been used, showing contrast, so showing cause and effect. As a result, presenting research findings, and so on. It pays to have a clear understanding of how and what these words, these linking words mean. As you're scanning, which is a quick but more careful look at the passage, unlike the skimming, the title and the date will give you an idea of what's going on and when this was set. Remember, you don't need to carry any information that is outside that passage, even if you're an expert on it. There will be an abstract. There might be at the beginning there might be something like a brief summary. It's important, the first paragraph and the first and last sentences, especially if you've run out of time, you might want to use that. If the first sentence doesn't have a topic sentence which summarizes that paragraph, then it'd probably be the second sentence with the topic sentence. But most likely, what that paragraph will be about will be found in the first sentence. Examine all the headings, the diagrams, and any illustrations will help you as well. And finally, the conclusion. Are you able to find very quickly what the main idea is and the supporting examples that, go ahead to explain and elaborate more on the main idea? That is one of the key areas that are being tested, you're being tested on. 2, the writer may have his own opinion and attitude about the subject. They may bring in other people's views and ideas and also suggest, present information which has a bit of bias here and there. But using the clues that are given, are you able to work those out and eventually come to an answer? That's what you're being tested on in most of these academic passages. Finally, how do you approach? For some people, they find it easier to read the questions first, then revert to the look for the answers really quickly. Of course, after having skimmed and scanned to find out where information generally is. For others, they find it more beneficial to read the passage first and then move on to the question. Reading the passage first, giving them an overall overview. You want to practice and confirm what works for you. Different people succeed differently. There is no formula set in stone. Whatever formula you use, whilst, of course, attempting the question, you want to highlight the keyword. These want to that there will be paraphrases. It's not going to be the same words. For instance, if the question has the word bag, a big bag, in the passage, you're probably looking for something like a sack or a huge polythene bag, something like that. If the question has female, the passage might have girl, and so on. And all these continue to be important even in your writing as well as speaking. You're expected to be able to, this time not identify, but to use synonyms as far as you possibly can. Then we move on to the listening. These are really quick overviews. What are the keywords and their synonyms? As immediately you receive your test paper, the listening, you want to quickly go ahead and check out what are the keywords in the first section of the listening. Having said that, look at the gaps right before the blank, where you're going to fill in the missing word, and after. Is it a single word they expect you to fill? Are they many words? Is it a number? And usually the instructions are write one word. IELTS rarely would never ask for more than 3 words, or that then you are never going to be asked for 5 words, for instance. So you want to think of that. As you're listening, what are the how do the speakers interact? What is the context? The context, for instance, if a student has gone to a college to apply for admission, what are they likely to ask him for? Or, what are the requirements? Or what would he want to know? Once you start thinking about these kind of things, it will be easy for you to identify them as they are said. In part 1, especially in part 1, there will be a point where one of the speakers will say something and then change it. So you need to be really careful, especially when they're speaking about time and prices. For instance, if they say, okay, let's meet for the discussion at 7 o'clock. Yeah, sure, let's do that. Then the other speaker might say, or say the speaker A, Naku, and speaker B, Chintu. So Chintu might say, oh yeah, 7 is okay. Oh no, I'm afraid I have another class at that time. Can we meet an hour later? Okay. And in the script, for you to respond, they'll say to you, what time are they meeting? If you miss that little interaction, you might write 7 instead of 8. So that's something that almost always happens in part 1 of listening. And then for the others, what we recommend, and we have found useful ourselves while attempting the IELTS, is when given time, when they say to you, you have now 1 minute to look at your answers. Because we have already used the time wisely before, we usually move on to the second section and start looking at for keywords and any other clues that will help us with following the speaker. That way, when we have more time to engage with the questions before we actually attempt the questions. So when we're given time to look at part 1 of listening, we're usually looking at part 2 questions and so on. Remember, for part 3 and 4, there is no pause between the 2 sections as it happens in part 1 and 2. So don't wait for it. If you do, you might just end up, you know, catching on only to find out that you've missed over 3 or 4 numbers. If that happens, don't worry, just move on. Do not dwell on the past. It's only 1 mark or 2 that you've missed. And if you keep thinking about it, sadly, you end up missing a whole 10 marks, and that will put you at 30 out of 40. Already, you're working at a disadvantaged point. So remember, it's obvious, but we must say it. There will not be any time to write the answers, so you write them as you listen. If it's computer, you type them in as you listen. On paper, you can use your pencil onto the paper-based test and write in your responses. Afterwards, if you missed anything, use the context clues to guide you into what could have been the answers. There is no benefit of leaving any answer blank. At least you have half a chance of getting it right if you fill in something. Yeah. Remember to transfer your answers fully. What we advise here is writing capital letters, all of them capital. Reason being, some may be proper names and you're not aware. So you write a name like Nakibuka with a small n, that would be wrong. Reason being, spelling matters. However, if you use all capitals, it's acceptable. For speaking, and this is our last component, you don't need an accent, you just need to speak naturally as far as you possibly can. And again, for speaking, you are being tested on how wide and varied your language structures are. For instance, are you able to use synonyms for words like yes? Yeah. There are many options for the word yes. Say absolutely, certainly, doubtlessly. And a question might be asked, do you like traditional music? Instead of saying yes, which is correct, but also very average, like band 5 response, you could say, oh, absolutely. The rhythms and the beats that comprise a traditional piece of music rarely fail to leave me unmoved. Yeah. So words like leave, where do you live instead of leave, and then you say, my accommodation is in Najana Kumbi, where I have resided for the past decade. Okay, so those are very crucial aspects of speaking. As far as possible, be varied in your vocabulary. Vocabulary also includes a range of idiomatic expressions. So idioms, like you would know, are phrases or sentences that mean something different from their literal, how they're literally worded. For instance, I am broke. For a native English speaker, you and I know, people who are speaking at that level know that, you don't have money, or I work around the clock. Okay, you're not walking around the clock. So the literal meaning is different from what it actually means. But for you to be able to produce these kind of structures, they must be embedded in your daily speech. It will not happen on that day, like randomly, just like that. So you want to be speaking these idioms. And for all that we have spoken about writing, it also applies to speech. The examiners expect you to use signposting language. For instance, what are some problems? What are some of the challenges that people who use public transport face in Kampala City? To begin with, there are lots of unsafe vehicles that are on the roads. Okay, that's one challenge. My point being, when you start by saying to begin with, the listener knows that, oh, there must be other aspects that will be mentioned. Or what are some of the tourist areas that you would recommend to a tourist in your city? Well, although there are a myriad of interesting attractions around my home area, the most striking one is the secret cave that is located just below the river that flows through our town, right? So by using signpost language, like the most attractive one, meaning there will be others, that is very crucial for a person who wants to impress the examiner with their language. Also, create opportunities for yourself. Please remember that this is a test and it cannot be, well, the examiner has to just give you a template in which to operate, but you can push yourself. For instance, where do you live? Currently, I reside at Najana Kumbi, although we haven't lived there long. And neither do I think I'll be there next year. But to answer your question, right now, that's where my home is. What I just did in that one or two sentences is to use the past, present, and future tenses. Yes, I think that's the overriding idea. Create opportunities for yourself to show off your range of English structures. So vocabulary is important, your grammatical range and accuracy, meaning your tenses use, how you use your tenses, sentences, are you using if sentences correctly? Although I am speaking about IELTS, I feel that our students need to prepare some more. So sentences like those, like all those sentences are great. Reason being, they connect two or more ideas together, and that's great. Grammatical range and accuracy is important. So is your fluency, how you use your linking phrases and words. And pronunciation comes into play. Most importantly, for pronunciation, of course, the closest you can't speak as a native speaker, the higher your band will be. Having said that, you must speak naturally at your normal pace. As long as your speech can be heard and understood, you can go ahead and score a band 9, which I wish for all of you. Then my final one, before we take in the question, is your planning time. There will be an opportunity for you to plan your speech in part 2 of the speaking. As we all know, speaking has 3 parts. For the first part, You might be nervous. It's only natural. Do not worry about it. Coming to part two, you have some time to catch your breath, recall all that you have prepared, and use it for planning. You can plan for part two, and keep referring to that piece of paper as you speak. Sometimes some students just say, oh no, I'm ready. You know, we use that 1 minute is not used appropriately. And the examiner is thinking, okay, oh dear, I wish you could have noted these things down. And it gives you, like I said, you know, structure to your response, idioms that you might want to mention now and even for part three, and so on. When you come to part three, that's where you need to flourish. Opinion language is very much expected here. For instance, I believe, from my perspective, in my opinion, now that you ask me, and words that have opinion in them, for instance, sadly, the youth today may not have access to all the information that they need. Or fortunately for students that want to study abroad, there is a generous range of resources that are available at the embassies. So sadly, fortunately, are words that will reveal what you think about what is being said. Overly, there is so much that can be said about the IELTS, but I will now stop at the top of the hour, and then perhaps, Abel, we can use this time to take some questions. Is that right?
Thank you so much. Let me give Dee chance to speak. Dee, kindly speak. Unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Lois, I'm very glad to hear whatever we've learned from here. However, my question is, can you please tell me the difference between the IELTS for school? Sorry, I came in a bit late, so I don't know whether you had talked about it. For education and for work, can you enlighten me?
Sure. IELTS
Yeah.
academic.
Maybe one thing, just wait, Lois, one more. Let's give chance to another one. Techno, kindly unmute.
Good evening, members.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, this is Mama Geoffrey. Yeah, I don't have any serious question on that. I wanted to tell you that I'm so proud to be part of this since it's my first time. I came in late, but so far what I've had is some good information. It has given me courage that the times I'll be here, I'm seeing myself benefiting a lot. I'd like to thank you so much for this program, the proprietor and the speaker of the day. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
Lois, let's have another person. Ayo?
Thank you so much, Lois, for this session. I do really appreciate. The other time I asked a question, you answered, but then what I didn't understand was it was about paying 500,000 as a fee for the training before sitting for the exam, and you advised us to take about 2 to 3 months for the preparation. But then my question is, does the 500 cover for all the months before, for all the 2 to 3 months before sitting for the examination, or there's another fee charged? Thank you.
Yeah, Lois, you can now take on those ones.
Sure. Well, if you are going to study or work professionally In professions like medicine, for doctors, nurses, midwives, and others, social workers, and so forth, you are required to attempt IELTS academic. IELTS academic has a different task one in writing, as well as the question types for reading differ from the academic, from the general training ones. So although the skills are similar, for your practice, you want to practice the exact tests type you will be attempting, basing on why you are attempting it. So those are the major differences for the academic. For study, it will be academic, scholarship purposes, and all, it's academic. For migration and work, immigration to another country, it will certainly be general training, IELTS general training. Depending on the country, you can either do standard IELTS, a standard IELTS that is for, anybody going anywhere in the world except the UK. If you're aiming to go to the UK, you want to attempt UK VI, meaning United Kingdom visa immigration. You are attempting that test for you to go to the UK either to work or to study. If you're unsure whether you will be, which country you're going to, then you want to attempt UK VI. That way you can use it for the UK as well as other countries. Right. The other question was 500. 500 is for the course and 20,000 is for registration. This is meant for the 1 month of training with us. Our course is 1 month. In this IELTS training course, we explore and, actually teach skills that address the trickiest parts of the IELTS. The rest of the 2 months, or depending on how you're progressing, for you to the skills you have learned from your, from the course into your practice. So the practice tests. We don't definitely say use 3 months. For some people, it could be 1 month. After the course, they're ready to go. Others 1.5, others 2, depending on ability, your nature of study, how your, different aspects. Yes, I hope your question is answered.
Thank you so much, Lois. There is another question in the chat. That is Jacob. Jacob, do you want to speak loudly?
Thank you very much, Abel, for the opportunity. I hope I'm being heard.
Yeah, you're very clear.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to, you talked about using idioms. And personally, I remember I loved using idioms when I was in high school because we were doing them to pass English. But it's been a while since, I really dwelled so much into this. So can I concentrate on other things, and probably I'll use the little idioms that will come to mind at that time, but concentrate on other things other than going back to look at idioms, just prepare for this test. Thank you very much.
Jacob, idioms are very much part of what distinguishes your speech as being at native speaker level. You needn't use extravagant, I don't know, rare, out of this world idioms. Choose the normal ones. You might even be speaking idioms and not knowing they are. It's the examiner who will know. But for practice purposes, you want to embed them in your speech daily. Yeah. You could, you know, focus on about, I don't know, 6, be comfortable with them. And when opportunity arises in the tests, use them. There are some that are you can fix anywhere, for instance. And we always say this to our students. They never fail, they always remember, and they smile when they use it. And the examiners smile, by the way, when they hear this idiom. I think they know these guys are from Anglo Smart Options. That idiom is, if my memory serves me right. Anybody who has trained with us has heard it. Why we say that is, you know, you can insert it anywhere. Easy things like at the crack of dawn, you know, I wake up at the crack of dawn. That's easy to remember. No. You know what? The IELTS test, attempting the IELTS test successfully is not a piece of cake. It's not easy. Things like this are not out of this world. Or you could say, I was so overjoyed, you know, I felt like at that moment I was over the moon. These are common enough expressions that you can go ahead and use on top of other aspects, of course.
Okay. Thank you for the floor. Okay, my question will be about the different methods for the test. So you said that there was the computer-based one and the paper-based, and you said that there was no difference between both methods. But my question is, I mean, maybe there are some facilities when you use one method rather than another. For example, for the computer-based, the question I have about it is what type of keyboard do they use? Is it a QWERTY one or an AZERTY? And also, isn't it simple for you to count the words when you use the computer-based test? Than when you write on a paper, you will need to count your word and you have the same time, for example. These are some worries that I have when I want to book my test and to choose the method. Can you help me please about that?
Okay. Yeah, let's have Techno C16.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you so much, Abel. And our presenter of today. I have just an inquiry. You talked about using maybe writing on a paper and then using a computer, a laptop. Yeah, are you given the opportunity to choose which one should be used, or it is as part of the instructions? Thank you.
Yeah, Lois, one more. Let's have D. D, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My question is, right now I'm not in Uganda, but if I want to train with you, is it possible online? Then the next question is, so how do I register?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we are running short of time. Let's have Erikana, and that's our last person.
Thank you very much for this wonderful session. I really learned a lot. But I think the last question has already, the previous lady has already asked my question, because I was also thinking, because I'm up country and I would need to try to train with Anglo Smart Options. Are there options for me to be online, because now I'm working up country and I cannot keep traveling to Kampala? Yeah, so that was my concern or my question.
Good. Lois, the last one is, does IELTS test certificate expire? Lois, you should shoot at it and then you could close it. Yeah.
IELTS expires after 2 years. After 2 years, yes, we have online training. Happy to be training with our people here. He's all the way from Sierra Leone. and the lessons are ongoing online. Once you train, you can train with us, but for the British Council, if you're out of the country and you want to register in the country where you are, for instance, if you're in Dubai, you would need to use your passport, your legit travel document. You go to a British Council there and have yourself registered for that test. You choose the test. You either choose computer-based or computer-based while you're booking. And please be careful, make a decision. Whilst booking, the website will display clearly, computer-based, is that what you want? Then once you agree, you follow through. The computers that are used take this, of course, offer the standard keyboard. And about the number of words, counting them, my advice here would be, because you really don't want to waste, okay, not waste, but spend a precious 1 minute counting words. If you've been practicing with the keyboard, you know how many words 250 words will be. You know how much you write for it to be between 250 to 200 and say 60 words. So you have a rough estimate already. Having said that, you can take this method. You count the first line. If there are 8 words, then you count the lines and you multiply it by the number of words on the first line. For instance, if there are 8 words on the first line, 7 words on the second, that means approximately you're writing 8 words. So you might, and then you have written about, say, you have written about 20 lines. So that would be 8 times 20. That's approximately 160 words. You're within the range of task 1. If it's task 2, then you know I need to increase my number of words. Remember, if you fall under 250 words in any of the tasks, you will be penalized for writing under the length. I think that answers that very shortly. I don't know is there any unanswered question? The questions have been answered unless I have missed.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lois, and we will end it here. Any parting shots from you?
Prepare in advance and prepare effectively. Please do not underestimate the English language tests. There's a reason why it's called a test. You know, if it wasn't a test, it would not be labeled as such. If you want to ace it, and it will open doors for you. If you really score a high one, you can even throw it in a conversation. I don't know, whichever academic conversation you're having or whatever, say, yeah, you know, as you see, as I scored a band 8.5, we're more than happy to receive you at Anglo Smart Options. We are at Posta Uganda, Kampala Road, for those who can come. For others, feel free to reach out to us on the numbers I've shared, or even on our Google, our email. We're more than happy to support you and your journey. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Lois, for creating time to speak to us. We have learned a lot, and we will get back to you in the very near future.